My girlfriend said, "You're so paranoid, he's just a friend," while deleting texts right in front of me. I said, "Perfect, then you won't mind being single," and walked out. She followed me to the car screaming that I was overreacting. I, 29 male, have been with my girlfriend. Let's call her Maya, for 2 years. We've been living together in my house for about 8 months. I bought this place a year ago, a mid-century modern fixer-upper that was supposed to be my dream project. Maya worked in marketing, had this magnetic personality that made everyone love her, and she constantly told me how lucky she was to have a guy who was stable and handy. The third wheel in this disaster is a guy we'll call Kyle. Maya introduced him to me about 3 months ago. She pitched him as this genius freelance designer and project manager she knew from college. She pushed hard for me to hire him to renovate the master suite and the detached garage. I trusted her. I looked at his portfolio, which I now know was ripped from Pinterest, shook his hand, and started writing checks. Things got weird fast. Kyle was over all the time, not just for work. I'd come home from the firm, and he'd be on my couch, drinking my beer, while Maya cooked dinner. If I complained, Maya would roll her eyes and say I was stifling her networking or being rude to an employee. She made me feel small for even asking questions. Last Friday was the end of it. We were sitting on the back patio, having a late dinner. Her phone was face up on the table between us. It buzzed. I glanced down and saw the name Kyle. The message wasn't about lumber or drywall. It was a string of emojis, an eggplant, water droplets, and that smirk face. I froze. My stomach dropped. I asked her calmly, "Why is he sending you that?" She didn't even flinch. She casually reached out, flipped the phone face down, and took a bite of her salad. She told me it was an inside joke and not to start drama. When I pushed her, pointing out that eggplant emojis aren't usually sent to clients, she laughed. It was this cold, dismissive sound that made my skin crawl. She picked up the phone, unlocked it, and said, "You're so paranoid. He's just a friend. I'm not showing you my private conversations because I shouldn't have to prove my innocence to my insecure boyfriend." While she was lecturing me about trust, her thumb was flying across the screen. Swipe left, delete, confirm. She held the phone up right in front of my face, showed me the empty message thread, and tossed the phone back on the table with a smug grin. "There. Happy? It's gone. Now can we eat?" The audacity hit me harder than the cheating accusation. She thought she had me so wrapped around her finger that she could destroy evidence right in front of my eyes, and I just accepted to avoid a fight. I stood up, grabbed my car keys, and told her, "Perfect, then you won't mind being single." I walked the driveway. She followed me, screaming. She went from smug to enraged in seconds, grabbing my arm and digging her nails in, yelling that I was overreacting, that I was toxic, that I was acting like a psychotic, jealous ex. I pulled my arm free, got in my car, and locked the doors. As I backed out, she was standing in the driveway, flipping me off. I checked into a hotel downtown. I didn't sleep. Instead, I opened my laptop. See, being a structural engineer means I'm precise, and I'm paranoid about security. When I bought the house, I installed a mesh Wi-Fi system and high-end cameras everywhere. Front door, patio, garage, and discrete internal cameras in the living areas. Maya knew they were there, but the indicator lights are taped over because the glare annoyed me, so she usually forgot about them. I logged into the cloud server and watched the live stream in my living room. At 8:15 p.m., I left. At 8:17 p.m., Maya is on the phone. She's not crying. She's pacing. The audio was crystal clear. She told Kyle that I left, that I saw the emoji but not the text, and that I was such a baby who would be back by morning begging for forgiveness. She told him to come over. At 8:45 p.m., Kyle's truck pulls into my driveway. He walks in and she kisses him. It wasn't a friendly peck, but that wasn't the part that made me call a lawyer. It was what happened next. They sat at my kitchen island, opening a bottle of my expensive scotch, the $200 bottle I was saving for a special occasion. Kyle pulled out a tablet. He asked if she got me to sign the draw for the materials. Maya laughed and said I was being annoying about receipts, so they needed to fake the invoices better. Kyle then admits, on tape, that he ordered cheap, non-compliant lumber for the garage foundation, but charged me for premium pressure-treated grade. He laughed about pocketing the 15 grand difference plus the labor markup. Then Maya dropped the bomb. She told him her credit cards were maxed out, and she needed the cash. Kyle told her not to worry, that once the reno was done, she needed to convince me to put her name on the deed for the refinance. Maya said he loves me, he's gullible. I just need to play the victim a bit more. Make him feel guilty for leaving tonight. We'll be set. I sat in that hotel room, watching my life implode in 4K resolution. They weren't just sleeping together. They were conspiring to commit grand larceny. They were embezzling tens of thousands of dollars from me and plotting to steal equity in my home. I didn't go back Saturday. I didn't call. I downloaded every clip. Saturday morning, I met with a lawyer, Mr. J, who specializes in construction fraud. I showed him the footage and the invoices Kyle had submitted versus the cheap stuff they admitted to buying. Mr. J told me this was actionable fraud and conspiracy. In my state, the amount they stole is a felony. Mr. J laid out the plan. We couldn't just kick her out immediately because she had established residency over the last 8 months. Even without a lease, she has tenant rights. If I change the locks, she could sue me for illegal eviction. But there's a loophole. Orders of protection regarding domestic violence or criminal activity on the premises. Mr. J told me we needed to catch them in the act or get the police involved for the theft and use that to remove her. I spent the weekend ignoring her texts. She oscillated between "I miss you, come home," to "you're being abusive by ignoring me," to "Kyle needs a check for the concrete pour on Monday." On Monday morning, I texted her. I apologized. I told her I overreacted and needed space to cool off. I asked her to have dinner ready at 7 p.m. and to invite Kyle so we could sort out the project details, and I could apologize to him. She texted back, "Finally, thank you for acting like an adult. See you at 7. I wasn't going to dinner alone. I spent Monday morning with a private forensic accountant. We called the lumber yard Kyle used. Turns out the idiot used his real account there. We matched the invoices he gave me, forged, against the actual receipts. The discrepancy was over $45,000 in 3 months. He had charged me for structural steel and installed generic beams that weren't even code compliant. He had literally compromised the safety of my garage to steal money. At 6:30 p.m., I met 2 police officers a block away from my house. I had filed a report earlier with the video evidence and the forensic audit because the dollar amount was high and verified and involved forgery. They were on board to execute an arrest for Kyle. For Maya, it was trickier, but I had a plan. I pulled into my driveway at 7 p.m. sharp. I walked in. The house smelled like roast chicken. Maya was in the kitchen, wearing a dress I bought her. Kyle was leaning against the counter, smiling that arrogant smile I wanted to smack off his face. "Welcome back, stranger," Maya said, wiping her hands. "I made your favorite." "Hey, man," Kyle said. "Rough weekend." "Eye-opening," I said. I didn't smile. I walked to the kitchen island and dropped a heavy manila envelope on the granite. Maya's smile faltered. "What's this?" "That," I said, "is a forensic audit of the last 90 days of this renovation, and a USB drive containing the security footage from Friday night where you 2 discuss embezzling my money and tricking me into putting you on the deed." The silence was deafening. The color drained from Maya's face. Kyle straightened up, his eyes narrowing. "You recording us?" Kyle sneered. "That's illegal." "It's my house," I said, keeping my voice dead flat. "You have no expectation of privacy in my living room, especially when you don't live here. And since you were discussing a felony, I don't think a judge is going to care about your feelings." "You're crazy," Maya stammered. "We were joking. You can't prove anything." "I don't have to prove it to you," I said. "I have to prove it to the court." I pulled out a second envelope. "This is a civil lawsuit for $45,000 in stolen funds, plus damages for the structural repairs. And this is a notice of immediate termination of your license to reside here due to criminal activity." Kyle laughed, a nervous, forced sound. "I'll put a lien on this house, so fast your head will spin. I did the work." "You did substandard work using stolen funds. I shot back. And you forged invoices. That's fraud. Suddenly, Maya snapped. The sweet girlfriend mask fell off completely. She screamed, I'm not leaving. This is my house, too. You can't just kick me out because you're jealous. She grabbed the envelope, ripped it in half, and then, in a moment of pure entitlement and rage, she grabbed a heavy glass vase on the counter and hurled it at me. I sidestepped, and it smashed on the floor near my feet, sending shards everywhere. Get out, she shrieked. You get out. You're trying to manipulate me. That, I said, pointing at the shattered glass, is destruction of property and domestic assault. I tapped my phone screen. Officers, you can come in now. The front door opened, and the two officers I'd met earlier stepped into the entryway. The energy in the room shifted instantly. Kyle went from tough guy to terrified. Maya stopped screaming, her mouth hanging open. The older officer looked at Kyle. Mr. Kyle, last name? We have a warrant for your arrest regarding grand larceny and forgery. You can't be serious, Kyle stammered. This is a civil dispute. He's lying. We have the invoices and supplier records, son, the officer said, pulling out the cuffs. Turn around. Kyle didn't fight. He looked at Maya with pure panic. You said he was stupid. You said he wouldn't check. Shut up. Maya yelled. I didn't do anything. This is all him. She turned to me, tears instantly flowing. It was terrifying how fast she switched to victim mode. She tried to grab my hand, but I stepped back. Opie, please. He forced me. He told me he'd hurt me if I didn't help him. I was scared. I was going to tell you. I looked her dead in the eyes. I have you on tape, Maya. You laughed. You said I was gullible. You said you needed the money for your credit cards. I was acting, she sobbed. I was just playing along so he wouldn't get mad. Ma'am, the second officer said, you're not under arrest right now, but you are named in the report as an accomplice. However, the homeowner has requested you leave, and since we just witnessed evidence of a domestic disturbance with that broken glass, if you don't leave voluntarily, we can arrest you for assault. I have nowhere to go, she wailed. You have parents, I said coldly. I'm filing for an emergency order of protection regarding the domestic violence. You need to pack. Now. She realized the crying wasn't working. Her face hardened. Fine. I need to pack my things. Officer, I said, I'd like you to supervise her packing. I don't want her taking anything I paid for. The next hour was practically therapeutic. I stood in the doorway of the bedroom while she shoved clothes into garbage bags. Every time she reached for something valuable, the iPad, the Dyson hairdryer, the jewelry box, I spoke up. I bought that. Receipt is in my email. Put it back. You gave this to me as a gift, she screamed about the hairdryer. Actually, I bluffed. Gifts are conditional on the relationship, not being a criminal conspiracy. And considering you owe me $20,000 in embezzled funds, I'm keeping the collateral. Technically, legally, I probably couldn't keep a gift. But she didn't know that. And the cops were too busy watching Kyle and the squad car to intervene in a petty property dispute. She ended up leaving with her clothes, her cheap makeup, and her car. As she walked out the front door, dragging her bags past the squad car where Kyle was sitting in cuffs, she stopped and looked at me. Venom was practically dripping from her voice. You're going to regret this. I'll sue you for everything. I have rights. You'll never find anyone as good as me. You have a court date. I said, don't be late. I locked the door behind her. Then I changed the code on the smart lock. Then I sat down on the floor amidst the shattered glass of the vase and finally exhaled. But of course, entitled people don't just go away. 2 days later, her mother, Linda, called me. I used to like Linda. She started off screaming. Opie, how could you? Maya is distraught. She says you framed her friend and kicked her out on the street because you were jealous. She's your girlfriend. You provide for her. She stole $45,000 from me, Linda. I said, oh, don't be dramatic, Linda scoffed. It was a misunderstanding with the budget. She said she'll pay you back slowly. But you need to drop the charges against Kyle. He's the father of her, well, never mind. I froze. The father of her what? She thinks she might be pregnant, Linda said, her voice dropping. "And you're sending the father of your potential child to jail." "Linda," I said, my voice shaking with a mix of rage and relief. "If she is pregnant, the math says it's definitely not mine. We haven't slept together in 2 months. And tell Maya that if she contacts me again, or if you call me on her behalf again, she violates a restraining order and goes to jail too." I hung up. The legal process has been slow, but brutal for them. Kyle took a plea deal last week. Faced with the video evidence and the paper trail of forged invoices, his lawyer told him he was screwed. He pled guilty to grand larceny in exchange for a reduced sentence. He's serving 18 months in state prison, followed by probation. The felony on his record means his contracting license is revoked permanently. Maya tried to fight the civil suit. She got a lawyer who tried to claim she was a victim of coercion, but the audio recordings were damning. The way she spoke about me, the callousness, the specific planning of the theft, destroyed her scared victim narrative in deposition. She wasn't charged criminally because the prosecutor focused on Kyle, but I won the civil judgment. She owes me $22,000 for her half of the liability. She had to declare bankruptcy last week. The twist regarding the pregnancy? It was a lie. Just another manipulation tactic she tried to use to get me to drop the case. She admitted under oath that she made it up to get sympathy from her mother and leverage over me. The renovation was a disaster. I had to hire a structural engineer buddy of mine to assess the damage. We had to tear down the garage framework Kyle had built because it was unsafe. It cost me another $15,000 to fix his mess. But the house is done now. I finished it myself with a reputable crew. I ran into a mutual friend yesterday. Apparently, Maya is living in her parents' basement. She tells everyone I was an abusive narcissist who recorded her without consent, conveniently leaving out the part where she was stealing from me. She's working as a receptionist because word got around her industry about the fraud allegations. I'm still single. I'm skeptical of people now. I don't let anyone use my phone, and I definitely don't hire friends of friends. Looking back, the moment she deleted those texts was the best thing that ever happened to me. If she hadn't been so arrogant, so entitled in that moment, I might have married her. I might have put her on the deed. I might have let them drain me dry. Her entitlement saved my life. The silence in my house used to feel lonely, but now it feels like peace. I own every inch of this place. The good steel, the solid concrete, and the locks that keep the parasites out.